The Memphis Grizzlies took the league by storm last season by exploding for an unexpected 56 wins and snagging a top 2 seed in the hard-fought battle of the Western Conference. Of course, Ja Morant's leap to stardom and a healthy Jaren Jackson Jr.'s defensive clinic were two of the driving forces behind this elite play, but in all of that brilliance, we can lose sight on other huge factors, such as the emergence of second-year shooting guard Desmond Bane. Almost all of Bane's value as an offensive player stems from his ability to shoot the lights out of the ball. There's not a single spot beyond the arc where he's uncomfortable, including extended range, and is just as effective off the dribble as he is off the catch. He's got a really smooth transfer of energy and is great at controlling his momentum, which allows him to quickly pull the trigger with a live bounce when coming off of screens or even pushing it in transition. This also helps him knock down jumpers on the move, where he's extremely good at using those tight windows of opportunity to perfectly square his shoulders and make typically difficult shots look very easy. The same applies to when he's heavily contested, at many times seeming virtually unbothered, yet still not letting these looks eat up a fair share of his overall attempts as he's got awesome shot selection. As a result, his three-point shot making is among the best in the NBA, last season ranking very highly in both pull-up and catch-and-shoot situations. If we take a look at how he performs in various three-point talent metrics across the board, you'll notice he stands near the top of the league in just about every single aspect, except for creation. And that's because while most high-volume outside shooters tend to self-create a large majority of their own looks, almost all of Bane's opportunities come as a result of his masterful off-ball movement. Because he's a threat to shoot at all times, from virtually anywhere on the floor, he constantly runs around screens, handoffs, and through gaps in the defense to find that small breathing room, and once he does, it's already too late. Take this play for example. He first fakes a ball screen of his own and slips into a flare action. Off the catch, he immediately moves the ball to the corner, then follows that pass for a handoff before squaring up for three with a 7-footer right in his grill. Defending this level of shooter, who doesn't stop moving, is a nightmare, and when his matchup tries to play in between him and the screen, or stays tightly attached to him, he's great at countering with quick backdoor cuts. You'll often see him use these screens as a decoy, first jabbing in that direction before darting towards the rim, or he'll do the exact opposite and fake the cut to create a bit more space for the outside shot. He's also able to take advantage of added defensive pressure with what he does after the catch, which is the main aspect of his offensive attack that really separates him from other great off-ball shooters. He loves to utilize fakes to force closing out defenders into flying by, and when they remain in front of him will commonly go to jab steps or rip-throughs for some added separation. He's very effective with his use of 1 and 2 dribble pull-up jumpers, where he showcases that really smooth transfer of energy that makes him a quick hitter, is comfortable knocking them down when drifting or fading in either direction, and has one nasty step back. It's not just from three-point territory either, as he's also a good pull-up jump shooter in the mid-range area and can occasionally get all the way to the paint. On the interior, he's a pretty nice scorer who can finish through contact at a decent rate and doesn't have any problems going to his offhand or adjusting his shot when needed. He really likes to go to a floater when attacking downhill, but as of right now this is still a relatively inefficient shot for him, which could be a key area of improvement to look out for in coming years. As is his entire on-ball game, as he is still pretty limited. Last season, just under 71% of his total field goals were assisted on, which is a pretty strong indication that he's not much of a creator. He doesn't really have the handle to consistently pressure the defense as a scorer, and his passing is very reactive, meaning you won't see him making many high-level decisions. As a result, he's not at all prone to errors, rarely ever turning the ball over, but also isn't really putting his teammates in better spots. In small flashes, he has made some nice finds and deliveries that suggest some future growth, and with increased reps, I've already seen some signs of improvement. He does get the occasional pick and roll opportunity, where he's of course a threat to pull up at any moment, and also loves to snake the screen for drifting middies. Still, he lacks the playmaking chops to really serve as that primary offensive option, bringing more value in the role of an off-ball wing who capitalizes off of the creation of others by finishing those plays, which is why he's such a perfect fit with Ja Morant. Ja's a ball-dominant guard whose value comes from his ability to dice up the defense, pressure the rim, score in the paint, and create advantages at an extremely high volume. Pair that skill set with an elite outside shooter who specializes off the ball with movement and quick attacks off the catch, and you have one of the most seamless fitting, talented young offensive backcourts in all of basketball. Before we get into what Bane brings to the table on defense, I want to give a quick shout out to Basketball Index for helping with this analysis and the making of this video. If you're not familiar with the site, they provide tons of statistical measurements, tools, and easily accessible graphics to further guide your understanding of the sport. Earlier in this breakdown, I referenced just a few of their talent grades, and through their player profiles tab, I can easily compare them to other players around the league. Using Desmond Bane's three-point shooting as an example, on this page I'm presented with various metrics detailing his ability to create and make these shots, along with how he stacks up against his peers. This is just one of the many useful tools found on the site that help guide me and many others through their analysis. And by signing up with the code VENUE30, you can get 30% off your first month subscription. I'll leave a link in the description below for anyone interested in signing up, and with that being said, let's take a look at Desmond Bane's defensive ability. What immediately stands out to me is his phenomenal footwork, particularly when defending quicker ball handlers. It feels like he's never off balance or losing control of his momentum when moving laterally, which allows him to change direction and cut off attack angles even when his matchup is more agile. He's also really strong, which helps him absorb contact and completely stonewall drives to the basket, while occasionally just taking the ball away entirely. His instincts when defending ball screens are solid, knowing when to get skinny or go under, but there are instances where he's not completely aware of his surroundings and gets completely blindsided. This isn't a huge problem though, as he's awesome at finding paths to recovery, so he's rarely out of the play, and due to that strength is switchable enough to not lose much value on these possessions. The only real major limiting factor that stands out with Bane is his lack of length, being one of those rare players whose wingspan is almost an entire inch shorter than his height. This really hurts his ability to use his hands as a method of disruption, and he's not the best at contesting shots. You'll see some instances of seemingly perfect defense where he keeps the ball in front of him for entire possessions, but just that little gap he can't close on the contest does make a pretty big difference. It also hurts him as a defensive playmaker away from the ball, as he doesn't cover enough space to cause a ton of problems in gaps or when playing lanes, and doesn't really offer much rim protection. He does make up for some of these issues with high activity and smart positioning. You won't ever see him lose his man or get caught sleeping. He almost always makes the correct rotation with some occasional high-level play recognition, and he's an engaged helper. Overall, I view him as a pretty solid value add on that end of the floor, but not quite pushing all defensive territory. So where does that leave him as an overall player? Impact metrics tend to view him as a guy who's more than just a high quality starter, but not quite all-star level just yet, which seems pretty in line with how I feel about him right now. One player I would look to for a decent comparison is a young Klay Thompson. Now of course this isn't apples to apples, but the idea of a high quality movement shooter with off the catch capability and solid defense kind of fits the mold of both players. If we take a look at Klay's numbers in the 2014 season, right before Golden State took the league by storm, they look pretty similar to that of what Bane put up last year. And while I'm not saying their trajectory will be anything near similar, I do think this shows that there is a pretty clear path to Desmond taking that next step. And Memphis is the perfect place for him to do so, as they've slotted him into the exact role you would want from a player with his skill set, and have seen immediate success. So, in conclusion, Desmond Bane is one of the very best shooters and off-ball players in the entire NBA, who already has a pretty nice attack off the catch, which makes him a perfect fit with star teammate Ja Morant. He's limited enough on the ball that I can't really see him as the driving force of an offensive unit, but in that off-wing role brings some of the better value you'll find in a high-level offense. He pairs that with solid defense, both on and off the ball, to put together a pretty strong two-way arsenal that makes him one of the league's best supporting players, and a sub-all-star level guy in my opinion. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn my post notifications on to be first on more content. If you're interested in my more in-depth research, make sure to check out my website, podcast, and social media profiles. You can find those links in the description. Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you think of Desmond Bane and just how good you believe he is. As always, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.